So Mastra just released dynamic workflows, and it's a way for you to define your workflows, not through the code, but through the JSON. And what you're watching right now is exactly that. It's an AI agent writes the workflow on the fly based on the user request. And by the end of this video, you will understand why you need this, how it actually works, who needs this, and what it actually can and cannot do. Normally, a workflow is code. If you want to change it, if you want to reorder step, if you want to add an approval step, you need to go through the whole process of redeploying your application, having an engineer that is going to actually change and make those changes. And that's totally fine if you are the one doing it and you don't do it that often. But what if the workflow needs to change constantly, or if the person who is going to change it isn't the engineer at all? And that's the actual problem that dynamic workflows are trying to solve. And the clearest case here is multi-tenant SaaS. Say you're selling a support tool to 400 companies. Company A escalates urgent ticket to Slack. Company B waits 4 hours before it actually submits the ticket. Company C needs a translation step because they are not in an English-speaking market. You cannot handwrite 400 workflows, and you cannot cram 400 businesses into a single workflow with a wall of config flags. With dynamic workflows, each tenant, each user, each client gets their own workflow, gets their own graph. The second use case is using an agent as a compiler. Let's say in your application you have an agent that actually does the workflow behind the scenes. Users always ask the same thing to do step A, then do step B, then do step C. But it's actually a workflow, and you can instruct your agent to identify that it is a workflow and create a dynamic workflow based on that. First, it's going to be much cheaper for you as a business, but it's also going to be much faster for your users because they don't need to prompt the agent every time. They can just run the workflow. And the third use case is to give your non-engineers in your team ability to change the workflow. Let's say your compliance team needs to add an approval step, operation team needs to change some, like escalation threshold, and they with dynamic workflows can actually do that without needing an engineer to ship that change. And here's the actual shape of it. There are 2 layers. And the first layer is fixed. It's a regular code. A small set of tools and agents you register once. A tool is a deterministic action. Look something up, send a notification, call an API, and an agent is a step that hands a task to a model with a specific instruction. And the second layer is a graph, a JSON structure that says what order those things run in, which ones branch, which ones run in parallel, and how data moves from one step to the next one. And the important thing is that the workflow never contains the logic. It only ever calls something that was already registered, predefined. And this really important distinction here is that you as an engineer predefine the building blocks, so-called vocabulary in your code, and everyone else, like an agent, your customers, compliance team, operation team, they basically write sentence out of your vocabulary. And before I show you how it works under the hood, here's the full set of blocks that the app has access to. And every workflow that you're about to see is built based on those blocks. Let's start with a simpler example. Let's say I am startup and I need to move fast. So if I send this request, we're a small startup team, we care about speed, no process, classify the ticket, ping the team if it's urgent, and then just always draft a reply. And you can see that it first pulled up information about the dynamic workflow, and I'm going to talk about this in a bit. Then it's built the workflow, and you also saw that it streamed the actual workflow here in the canvas. And it did exactly what we asked for. It first classifies the ticket, then if it's urgent, then we're notifying the team and drafting the reply. And now what I can do is that I can run the actual workflow. Let's say the request is, I got 500 error on auth page. If I do that, it's going to classify the ticket. So AI is going to classify the ticket. You can see here that it specified it as urgent. So we notified the team and we got the reply back to our user. So we can see here that it says that thanks for flagging this, sorry for trouble logging in. And on the left, you can see here that we saved the actual workflow. So if we need to rerun the workflow, we can easily do that. I just need to, again, put the request and run the workflow. An important thing here is that here I'm just demonstrating this in the app, but once you registered and you created this workflow, you can call it from anywhere because it's registered in the Mastra database. So it means that we can call it from, I don't know, like from Slack if you need to. It doesn't mean that you can only call it from here. it just becomes as a regular workflow that you can run. Let's try something different. Let's say gate on the plan. So this is more for enterprise startups, I would say. So we're first looking up the customer, checking their entitlement, then branching. If it's paid user, then we getting the draft reply. If it's a free tier, then we are pointing them to the community forum. So let's say I put this customer ID here and the request is, I don't know, let's say the same thing, that I got an issue, an error 500 on auth page. And now this customer, if I look at the database, and I have just mock database, this is a free tier user, free tier customer. So it should route me. There is probably some issue with the state. Oh no, it was instant. I thought that maybe it's a result of the previous workflow. Anyway, so we got the response. Thanks for reaching out. That's, I got 500 issues, so it's just duplicating my request. Free plans are supported by the community forum. And so it links the community URL here that I can use. So even though we are using the same building blocks, you can see that the logic is very different from customer to customer. In this case, we have a branching logic. In our first example, we just had a classify ticket. You can also have like a translation step if your customer needs it, etc., etc. Now the part that I got wrong when I first read about this, I assumed that you can actually run the actual code inside of your dynamic workflows, like drop in a function and have it run. But you actually can't do this. There's no code inside of the JSON at all. No closures, no function bodies. Every step only ever calls something that was predefined, pre-registered. There are a few places where it actually bites, because the step that actually reshapes data in between steps, so-called mapping step, can rename things and build a template from those strings, but it can't actually add two numbers, let's say, or filter through the list. The next is that post step, the sleep step, needs a fixed duration. So you cannot compute the duration of the sleep step at the right time, at the runtime. And in agent step, you can put different instructions and custom instructions based on the request, but you cannot swap the agent, you cannot swap the tools that it has. Those are locked in when you registered the agent. But actually, in most cases, it's not a limitation at all, because you want your workflows to be trusted, to use only trusted blocks. Otherwise, if your, for example, agent writes all those workflows, it can come up with some weird stuff and it's going to break the whole workflow and it's not going to be a good user experience. The same goes for your non-engineering team. For them, it's not even necessary to have custom, custom code inside of your workflows. I want to actually show you what it looks like inside of the code. The first is how our agent even knows how to write those dynamic workflows. Because if you imagine, it is actually a pretty complex task. It has to know all about those JSONs and the schema that it can and cannot write. And for that, I created a separate skill based on the documentation. So here I have a reference. If I make it bigger, here you will notice I have a skill with reference and a skill defining everything about how to write and create those dynamic workflows. And here I have all the references, examples, graph entries, what it can and cannot do, everything about mappings, and all the possible things that it needs to write those workflows. And to add this actual skill to our agent, all I needed to do is to go to my chat agent, and here I need to add skill that is going to point to this exact folder, skills, and that's pretty much it. Now it is going to have a tool to search skills, and it's going to discover these dynamic workflows only when it's necessary and not on every request. Because if you imagine, all this MD files and all this information is unnecessary to have in our agent context every time. The next thing is how it actually writes those workflows. For that, we have a separate skill that is called create workflow. And all this skill does is it has an input schema. Inside of this input schema, we're defining the ID of the workflow that we're going to create, which is probably not the best thing to give to the model to create this ID, but we can change that and we can remove that. Then the description of the workflow, what it does. Then we have the input schema, what we need to input into this dynamic workflow for it to work. And then the output schema, what it's going to output from this dynamic workflow. And after that, we have a graph, which is an array of objects. So basically just this JSON, the structure, the graph that defines the whole workflow. And inside of this tool, all we are doing is that we're checking whether we have a Mastra here in the context. Next, we're doing Mastra.addDynamicWorkflow, and this is their new API to add actual dynamic workflows. All we need to do is to provide here the definition. In our case, definition is just our input schema with ID, description, input, output, and the graph. And after that, we are just returning the result back to the model. The other interesting thing is how do we actually stream the workflow? Because if you remember, if I send the request, it is going to stream out the workflow here as it generates it. So you can see here that it streams the actual steps into the canvas. And the way that it works is super simple. We have a chat here. So we have a whole context around our canvas and our chat, which is called use shared chat, which is just defines the chat class here, and it passes this chat into the context, and then we can provide this chat into use chat. I said the word chat too many times, but you get the idea. We're passing the chat, which means that it's going to use the shared state from both. So this canvas and this chat, they are sharing the same state, the same chat, which means that we can actually take from the messages the tool definition, the input schema as AI writes this workflow. And based on that, based on different parsing and stuff, we can render different cards and different UI here in the canvas. The next thing is how do we actually run this workflow? Because cool, we can create this workflow, but how we can actually run it? And for that, it's super simple. It's exactly the same as with regular workflows. All we need to do is to call a route run. So all we need to do is to get the run. So from Mastra, get workflow by ID, get the ID of the workflow that we're trying to execute, create run, and then stream. And here we're just like creating a readable stream to stream the actual execution when we are running it. So if I run this, you will see that we see like each step executing. This step running, you can see, then it's success, then this running. So we are streaming the actual workflow as it's working. And to make the execution of this workflow streamable, all we need to do is to send the request to start the run. Then we need to process that the response is okay. And then we're just parsing the actual stream. And we have there multiple events. And based on those events, we're just setting the steps into the state and rendering the actual state on the UI, like which step is running and etc. etc. So it's that simple. And again, this full workflow builder through AI is mostly like a flashy demo, you can say. In real production application, you're most likely going to have some kind of workflow builder with some AI assistance, not like this fully automated generation of the workflow. So if we zoom out a little bit, the real value here is not that AI now can write workflows. It is that if we need to change the workflow, we don't need to redeploy the application, which matters enormously if you have like hundreds of different tenants that need different processes, or if a workflow needs to change weekly, or let's say the person who is changing this workflow is not an engineer. And to be fair, on the other side, if you barely touch the workflow and your team fully owns it, just write code. Because with code, you still get all the type support, all the debugging features, all the evaluations, and everything that comes with great developer experience. So you're basically trading the engineering ergonomics for runtime flexibility. And this API is still in beta, so expect some rough edges and possible breaking changes in the future. I'm going to leave all the links in the description. I hope you found this helpful. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.